to the stage, your MCs and moderators for this evening and for the entire weekend, Pup Riker and Pup Nitro.
Oh wait, you're off. I'm on. Hi.
Now I'm
Can you turn him on?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How are you guys?
Oh, it's very Brittany.
Welcome to.
It's so
It's fucking Brittany, bitch. I don't look good as a blonde. Just trust me. And do not look at Throwback Thursday. Whatever you do.
Oh, look at it.
Oh, those pictures.
High school friends started doing that on my little page. I'm like, well, I'm discarding all of you.
So for tomorrow, your homework is.
Homework.
Y'all don't know that.
Yes, homework.
Yeah!
Y'all bitches on that page. So, welcome to the show that is listed to begin at 7:30 p.m.
Puppy time. Hey, puppy time, yes.
Click to MRWL logo, Jeff Reeds. Oh, you already read that? Oh, okay, got it. So, seriously, thank you guys for having us back here. We had such a blast last year. My partner in crime. Apparently tonight I'm Oprah, she's Gail. Hi.
Really?
Yes, we got it. It's your show. We're kinky fans.
All right, so tonight's Fireside Chat is an opportunity for the leather community to learn about others and their experiences, right?
Absolutely.
So what did we have last year?
So last year we had Jesse Jackman and Dirk Caber.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Totally a lot of fun.
Who was here last year? Good, awesome. So we learned a lot about what it was like for the two of them being in a relationship, both in the adult film industry, but not necessarily working together.
Not all the time. Not all the
that.
time. I mean, they work together sometimes, but a lot of time, like Jesse was or still is, I think, an exclusive with Titan, and Jack was not.
Yeah. So they work together sometimes, but not all the time. So we learned a lot about that. A lot about their social media presence, how that differed from their home life, things like that. She's throwing in Latin. So the motto of MRWL is Una Semper Excelsius.
So for those of you that are getting continuing education credit for this evening.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm from South Carolina, I don't even know what that means. So, together, always higher. So thank you for the subtitles to tell me what that is.
Yeah. Yes.
So after tonight, we are going to have a Q&A session with our special guest this evening. So if questions come, oh God, what?
No, go ahead.
Okay. You sure?
Before we introduce the guest, though, I have to do something.
Yeah. I got you, bud.
Okay.
All right. Got this. We're good. Do we go back?
Do you want to?
Do you live, bro?
Oh, I live.
So after tonight, we are going to have a Q&A session. So if questions kind of pop up during our discussion with our guest this evening, then feel free to ask. Gail is going to be in the audience with a microphone. Yeah, y'all got to, exactly. Yes. Yeah, there you go. So before we bring up our guest.
So I talked to Jeff earlier today, and we wanted to recognize that there was something that was happening this weekend. It is the first time that this has happened since May. But all three of our podium holders from IML have come this weekend to do official things. So our first place, our second place, and our third place folks from IML here tonight. We're open tomorrow. We got Tyler, we got Dino, and we got our IML up there in the back.
Yay!
You guys,
Talk about a brother bang.
no shit, I'm not a brother bang. Right? But we'll meet them again tomorrow. They'll all come up on stage so we can recognize them formally. But definitely wanted to point that out. This was the first time since May that they've been here.
And just remember, you're not all allowed to be in the same car at the same time. It's kind of like when the State of the Union happens. One has to stay in an undisclosed location.
No Ubers together.
No Ubers together. No shared rides. So, 2 years ago, actually, a little funny story about Jeff. I think it was Mr. Grunberger. It was the first, Riker and I were judging because Jeff constantly makes bad decisions. Riker and I were on a judges panel together, and actually, were you? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. TC was, and you were there, and you were there. So we were all in the same car together, the whole judges panel. because that's a great thing to do, right?
Things to not
And so
do when you are coordinating the contest.
we're leaving the interviews, and we're all in the same car together with TC driving. We're going to Fond du Lac. Just saying. Yeah, pray to whoever deity you hold dear. And
Been there.
we send a big group picture message of all of us in the vehicle together. And we send it to Jeff and say we're on our way to Appleton, Wisconsin for the contest, which is where Jeff lived at the time. I think he had a mild aneurysm and then he moved to Atlanta. So,
I don't need to deal with an aneurysm all day long.
so we love you, Olaf. All right, so let's go ahead and, Gail, let's bring up our guest tonight. So our guest tonight is Boy Dana.
Yeah.
How are you, baby? It's good to see you. So me and this one go back years and years, and I was so excited. Hey, Gail, why don't you come have a seat? Oh God, that's my watch. So Dana and I go back years and years and years, and when I got the phone call that we were going to be doing this, I was so excited because we go back to. Let's not do that math. Now, one thing we're doing a little different this year, we're actually recording this year's FireSide chat so that all the folks at home can watch. So we're going to put it up online on the MRWL website. So everybody say hello to everybody at home.
Hi, everybody. We're here.
So like 2 of you did it. That's cool. So, all right. So Dana, give us like the 30-second version of your story. So like, where do you live? What do you do for fun, for work?
I'm a recent transplant to, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Recent transplant to Baltimore, Maryland. I lived in Atlanta for almost 20 years. That's kind of where I came of age.
That's really going to
Yeah. But I now live in Baltimore with my owner, and I work from home. I'm an IT geek, and so I have the luxury of sitting every day and working my underwear less. And so that's kind of great.
Nice.
All right, so that camera's going home with you. Direct upload to my house. Sorry. Okay. All right.
And I worked in the private level community for over 20 years. I started out really around 19 years old when I was exposed to the community in Columbia, South Carolina, of all places. But here I am today. So we're going to cover end to end, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and you know, I grew up not far from you, so you know, we're going to go ahead and race over to the state of South Carolina. And so it did not happen at all. And we're going to stop doing that now. On this. So, now, Dana, you really do have a hell of a story. You have changed a lot. You've been through a lot. So kind of give us some background for everybody that's here tonight that doesn't know your story. So what was it like kind of growing up, feeling like something was really different for you, but not really knowing what it was? And, you know, when did you start having those feelings?
I knew I was in the wrong body from like a small child. I think from like 6 or 7 years old, because you know I grew up around other boys, so I thought, oh, I should hit girls and run away because I had a crush on them, or I should ask girls to marry me, and I was in 3rd grade.
And you still not stopped getting girl sex. So really bad.
No story. But when I knew I was different, I was 8 years old and I grew up in the South. We had all these sprinklers at public parks. And when my dad said, you can no longer go without a shirt on, because I hit puberty really early. So I was wearing a training bra in elementary school. So I knew I was different than other boys very early. And that was a hard part for me, you know, growing up. And I had moms like, young ladies don't do that. You know, I had a Southern mom, cotillions, yes, Southern. It's like, young ladies don't do that. So it was always a struggle. And I have a sister who's 2.5 years younger. So my mom dressed us alike. And my sister's very femme. She's a hairstylist as a profession. So we were total polar opposites from day one. And so, but I knew I was different from a very young child. And so you look in the mirror and you expect a certain reflection, you're not getting it back. And it grew stronger once I hit puberty. And it's like, whoa, my body's rebelling. This is not what's supposed to be happening. You know, I see like people, my peers who are guys, I should be looking like, I should be going facial hair and all that kind of stuff. But no, I'm going boobs, hips, and all that kind of stuff, and getting attention from men I didn't want because I didn't see myself the way they saw me. And that was very hard.
So you actually for a while kind of gravitated towards the lesbian community, right?
I was butch. I was a butch dyke. I was like bull dagger dyke.
So just to be clear,
She was a dyke.
that coach piece right here.
Oh yeah. But it felt comfortable to me because I could be masculine and it wasn't a question. And it wasn't until I found the leather community when I was 19, 20 years old, I could identify as a boy and still be female body. And that's where I began to express my gender a little bit more. But the lesbian community felt comfortable at the time because I could be butch, be masculine, and it was okay. However, my attraction was to other butch women, which is a no-no.
Right.
In the dyke scene. You know, it's very, especially in the black lesbian community, it's very much butch femme. So I go into a bar, ooh, that stuff looks good. And then the film becomes flock, I'm like, no. What's her name? You know.
Oh, I actually met in my sister's room a long time ago. Oh. Yeah.
but it did feel comfortable at the time. To be in the lesbian community, it was
Right.
comfortable.
But it still felt a little bit off. You didn't quite feel at home.
It's kind of catch-all. It's just like some places that I was not straight, but somewhere I could still express myself in a masculine way and still be okay.
And so that's kind of when you kind of started to realize that, you know, you kind of had to go in a different direction. So what was that feeling like of kind of coming to terms with, okay, you know, I've gravitated towards this community, but it's still really not home?
It was when I discovered Leatherman because again, that's when I started meeting people who were, you know, pushing the gender binary and stuff like that. So, and again, being able to be called boy and still be female body. And the first trans people I met was part of the leather community. So that really helped me know that there was something else out there than what I was doing at the time.
And you actually kind of, once you got involved in the leather communities, when you went versatile, right?
Georgia Leather Boy, 2000. I was also Miss South Carolina Leather in 1996, but you don't see that.
I wasn't going to call you out on that. Let me tell you, I have seen the pictures. Flawless.
Ooh.
Yes.
Cool. Most epic throwback Thursdays ever.
Ooh, Jerry Curl. That was the 90s fashion. But yeah, Georgia Leather Boy, 2000.
Now, kind of walk us through the process. Like, what does it look like once you kind of hit that realization that you aren't yourself in your own body?
It was hard. It was really hard because I didn't know what to do with it. I was able to find really good resources in Atlanta, and that's not common. Luckily, I came out in a big city, but you have a lot of people who are in rural areas who don't have access to health care, who don't have access to mental health. And when I came out, that's when you had this whole kind of process you had to follow. So you had to kind of live in your designated gender for like a year before you start hormone treatment and stuff like that. So luckily, I don't want to say luck because we'll probably get to that, but
You can look at my nose.
no. I suffered from depression for years. It was really tied to it was tied to my gender because I wasn't able to do anything about it. It was a very struggle. I felt frustrated. I wasn't able to do anything about it. It was after my third suicide attempt was when I realized I had to do something. Or I'm not going to do anymore. And I had a queer psychiatrist who worked with transgender patients. It was like, I can't help you. He cussed me out about, swallowing the balsamic that he prescribed. But after he cussed me out about that, he was like, I can help you.
And that's got to be like finding a unicorn, right? Like finding the perfect match of a therapist that gets what you're going through rather than just saying they did it. and can actually help you. That's
And I changed.
Yeah.
I changed psychiatrists, but I was like, who's that queen? You know, I'm like, what's that guy? You know, he was great.
I can't say that.
If you saw his ass flying around that, you know, it was like now butterfly. But he was great, and I love him. And he also helps, you know, save my life. My partner at the time also helped literally save my life. She's the one that found me, and you know, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for her.
I'm glad you're on.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people in this room, I mean, myself included, are going to be really, really ignorant to this fact. So what all goes into, once you realize that you need to make this change, what do you do? How do you even
Well,
start?
the first thing is hormone therapy. You find, again, you have to find a psychiatrist. With my experience, because I, you know, tried to commit suicide, it was fast tracked. Again, usually sometimes a psychiatrist requires you to live as that gender for a year, so you really know that's what you want, because so many people now are starting to transition at an earlier age. You know, I was in my mid-20s when I started to transition, but now you have children transitioning where parents are like having like hormone blockers to kind of block puberty and stuff, which is great. I wish I had transitioned way earlier than I did. But, you know, hormone therapy, some people, again, and I want to have this disclaimer, my experience is totally different than a lot of other trans people. We have some things in common, but, you know, we're all different. You have some people who want to do hormone therapy up to a point to where they get their body to where they want it, then they stop. For me, I've been on some sort of testosterone shots probably for the rest of my life. Since I've had those organs removed, I won't feminize and stuff like that anymore, but hormone therapy, top surgery for me, that was kind of like the surgery I needed to have. And I'm talking about specifically female to male transition, because that's obviously I'm the expert at that. So you have hormone, top surgery. Some guys go for bottom surgery, and that's a tricky area because it's a very complex surgery. You're taking skin tissue from other places to build a penis, and you don't have a lot of surgeons here in the States who do it well. So you have a lot of guys who go to Serbia for weeks at a time. Serbia.
Can I tell you, I can't even point that out on my own.
So I guess my question is, why Serbia?
Because they were able to perfect the procedure a little bit better than the surgeons in the States.
That's actually like really shocking, just because like they're typically very anti
Everything.
everything. Like seriously, like.
And I know 3 guys who have gone to Serbia, and you're there for a few weeks because they've got to rearrange everything around, and there's a lot of risk. It could fall off because your body could reject that. You could reject it. You can have a lot of infections and things like that. So, again, it's a very complex surgery, very expensive. You got to have support out there. You got to either find somebody who's in the country or bring somebody with you, so that's more money. And again, you're talking about not historically, but people who were women who are at a lower paid rank because we know the equality thing don't work out. So who don't make a lot of money? Who having
Especially like 2 blocks away from the Capitol.
Yeah. Even for my top surgery, it was $7,000 for me to have my breast removed. And that was all out of pocket. That was waiting for Obamacare. That was me doing fundraisers, cooking, you know, having people over bring donations, you know, great friends who donated, but it's a lot of money out of pocket.
And when was that?
I had my top surgery in 2009, and I started testosterone 2007. I started testosterone. So, but for me, I'm not doing bottom surgery. I'm a power bottom, so I enjoy both holes. So. I will be down there. You know, I'm like, if I want to fuck anybody, I got to pick a size and a size.
Okay.
That's pretty much roughly the process. And again, my dysphoria was really tied to my my chest. So once I got these 40 Ds up here that I had, up
You
here,
had what?
40 Ds.
Jesus.
And I bound and just walked, and my posture suffered because I would punch to kind of take away some of the chest I would get guys boobs, you know.
So I guess that's my question is like, after you had your surgery, like, and you were free of your breasts, I guess is the way
Yeah,
to put it.
breast free. My website is way before the GoFundMe days.
Okay.
I created a website called Tits Be Gone.
Okay, so before tits be gone. So I guess my question.
All right, boys and girls, we lost control at 8:24. Go ahead and strike that on the record.
I mean, how did it feel after tits be gone? When you came out of surgery and you were walking around, like that's got to be a lot of like, must like.
It was great because I had my surgery on April the 1st, and I went shirtless for the first time June the 3rd.
That's amazing.
You know, like, feel the sunlight on your chest because you could walk around topless, you know, shirtless most of the time.
No bikini.
No, and that felt so great. I cried. I was at the beach, you could feel the sunlight and just get it. And that was it was the best thing ever.
That's amazing.
Good for you. That's awesome. Now, so how does that process look in terms of, you know, I'm kind of assuming that you had already kind of come out once, right? You came out to your family, probably some coworkers and friends as being a lesbian or being queer. So, and, you know, they all process that. I'm from South Carolina too. Some of them take it well, some of them don't. So what did that process look like when you sat down and realized, shit, I've got to come out a second time?
It was difficult, and I think one of the most difficult parts is getting the pronoun. My given name was Dana, and so I kept it. It went either way, so that made it easier, you know, for my family and friends not to have to learn a new name. But even I still have family members now who don't see me that often and still call me she. I'm like, and my dad, who I don't have a really good relationship to begin with, the last time I saw my dad was probably 10 years ago. Had a full beard. He called me baby girl. I'm like, really?
I have a better beard than you.
Really? But when I came out, I was working in a different company, and they were very supportive. I reached out to HR, and I was like, you know, things are going to change my pronoun. I reached out to management, and they were very supportive and everything. And so when I moved to the new company, I'm out to certain people. I don't need to broadcast to everybody, but I'm out to a few individuals at my workplace in this time. But it was a little rocky road at first, just getting people, you know, used to pronouns. And to be a trans person, you do have to be patient, but there is a line, okay, dude, you see me every fucking day. Why are you still calling her a she? I mean, really? You know, so I mean, but again, you have to be patient because especially people who don't see you that often, like, okay, and like, I'm sorry, but it's a give and take. You have to be patient, but also too, you have to recognize, hey, this is something new. Please respect, you know, my wishes. And again, you have some trans folks who don't use he or she. They use they and their and them, and I know that's really confusing. It's not proper English, but again, that's what they choose to do for doing as and stuff like that. So.
Well, and that's kind of a good point because, you know, like you and I've always known you as Dana, right? And, you know, I have some friends of mine that I have known pre-transition and post-transition, and it's difficult for the people around you as well, because, you know, you have to go from those automatic pronouns that you've used for years to slowly trying to remind yourself. And, you know, one of my, a very close friend of mine that is kind of going through transition didn't really care for a long time what pronouns to use. And it wasn't until their significant other shifted that I'm like, oh, okay, all right, so you shifted their pronouns, got it, I'm gonna follow suit. All right, now I gotta change this. So,
and especially because, again, I've been in the leather community for 20 years, so I came out of the leather community as a woman, and I took a back seat to transition to get myself right, and then I came back into the leather scene as a man and as a queer man, and there actually needs to be a study on trans guys. I'm serious. Any psychiatrists, psychology folks out there, sociology, whatever, because out of maybe out of 4 out of 5 guys I know, they started out as dykes, gold star dykes. Never touched a dick, did one any kind of dick. But once they started testosterone, they now identify as gay men. There needs to be a study around that.
So I guess my question is, like, you had mentioned, like, you were in the leather community, you took a back seat. Sorry. And while you transitioned, then you came back in once you had transitioned. What was the reaction from some of the people that were in the community for the entire time? After you transitioned, being the new you.
I pretty much had my debut at Gay Black Pride in Atlanta. I went to one of Onyx Southeast seminars they had, and they knew me before that I would do that seminar with them, but I still was a woman, and I just showed up, and they're like, "You look familiar." The eyes look the same.
Are you somebody's brother?
Some twin. I'm twin. But I pretty much came out with them first, and so that was kind of like my entryway into Onyx Southeast, and I was the first trans member of Onyx, and so again they were used to different gender expression because they came from the ball scene. So if you look at Paris is Burning, so they're used to different gender expressions. So for me, it was like, okay, I got you, I see you, and so that felt comfortable for me to be with guys I had known before and after. To kind of help, and they're also my allies, and kind of like our protection as well. And then again, some of the Panthers, again, those before and after. And for me, I was starting to have conversations with people. Let's sit and have a drink and talk, one-on-one, ask me questions, because I'm here, I want you to know me for where I am now. And so that's kind of what it is.
So it was pretty easy.
It's relatively, I got a little bit of like, oh, what is this, what's this viscosity, what's this, you don't get that with anything. So you just kind of have to like.
What do you mean you wore white after Labor Day? You can't do that. Well, and you're absolutely right, and you really were a teachable moment for. Let's face it.
Not like one of the first.
Yeah, like we're from the South, right? You were a teachable moment for a lot of people who were like, wait, I now have this resource that I can sit down and freely pick your brain because you're a friend of mine. And you'll share this information, that way I'm not ignorant to it.
Because the Eagle has been my home. And so I go to the Eagle hang out before and after. I'm like, I'm here. This is my community too. But I always take everyone as a teaching moment. And again, sit down and have a conversation. And ask questions, because we're walking around, a lot of us don't disclose, a lot of us do, but I'm here to educate.
Right. Now, one thing you and I have talked about extensively over the years is, and again, this is something that someone on the outside wouldn't really even think about, legal identification. So, you're good. You're so sweet.
Okay.
This AGD moment brought to you by Squirrel. So something that folks kind of on the outside would never really even think about is legal identification.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this extensively over the years.
Title in Atlanta because
that is a fair statement. Yes. There was a title running that you needed to be gay male but also legally identified as male. And at the time you weren't.
Yeah. I just changed my driver's license last July to say M, male. And I also changed my middle name because my middle name was Clarissa. So I changed it to Common. So I'm keeping C like that shit monogram. So I had to keep
that shit monogram.
But it was a fear of mine because again, I could get pulled over and have a cop that could have a bad day.
Because the
because of the sound. and with me keeping the F on my driver's license, I have to say, wait a minute, okay, we got to do something different this year. But it was my experience. I had hip surgery a couple of years ago, and in the hospital, they can't see past what they see on paper. So it was like, Miss Dana Prosser, need for a beer. I'm like, yeah. She has blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no pronouns, please. She had blah, blah. Even my partner was like, no pronouns. So it was, I think at that point I decided to change my driver's license at that point. But there's still a fear because I do have original plumbing. To get pulled over, person having a bad day, and get thrown in with non-trans men in jail. So think about that for a moment. That'd be not a very good scene.
It's not like Oz. It's nothing like Oz. Christopher Maloney is not there. So just hang that famous
So
right
that's
now.
still a fear of mine.
So I guess my question is, I know on the IML circuit, in order to run for IML, you have to have an ID card that actually states that you are a male. I'm not necessarily 100% sure on the ILSP circuit if you need that exact same thing. Is that what prevented you from running?
Yes, because I was thinking about running for one of the Southeast titles, but at the time I didn't change my gender marker, I wasn't going to change it. So
Okay.
that was totally fine. I'm like, hey, I was fine with that. I don't think I was judged for that year.
Yeah, I think you were, and there was a mutual respect.
I'm
of
not going to change it. This is it. Great.
But you had a legitimate fear that and this was around 2012, 2013, so it's been a few years.
Yeah.
But you had a legitimate fear at the time of if you changed your gender marker on your ID and then you got pulled over for whatever reason and ended up in jail, of being in jail in general population with men, but still having original plumbing. There was a general fear there.
Yes,
And
there is.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people wouldn't even think about, which, of course, most places in the criminal justice system in the civilized parts of America have things in place for that. But that's gotta be a fear though. So
It is.
now, again, kind of like we said earlier, you and I go way, way back. We've had many, many conversations over a Jack and Coke, and we can have very heated discussions. Ironically, you and I, we have heated discussions being on the same side of the argument, but we're still fucking arguing and like going back and forth, and then we just realize why are we arguing the exact same point. But one of the things we talked about a lot is terminology.
Yes.
On both sides of the equation, on both terminology used within the trans community as well as terminology used outside of the trans community, towards the trans community, from the trans community, from, all over the place. So kind of talk to us about that. Like what?
There's an alphabet soup, and there's actually a group in Atlanta. It's called
Alphabet soup, yes.
But
Hi Jackie, hi Earl, hey Jay, you guys.
But again, you have so many people who identify so many different ways. It's like, I would say, the kink scene. Like, when I came out, you pretty much had a handful of hanky codes. Now you got like 100 hanky codes. It kind of feels like everybody's niche, everybody's finished.
Everyone's got a fucking hanky.
So the same thing with trans, with trans experience. You have so many people who identify different ways, gender non-conforming, and people who are non-trans. I don't tend to like to use the word cisgender because I know a lot of people that turns a lot of people off, and then they're like, I don't hear anything else you have to say because you're just calling cis. And so I tend to use non-trans, depending on the audience and things like that. So because what I've seen a lot of times is cis is used negatively, and that's kind of what turns people off, and they put the walls up and don't want to hear anything else you have to say.
And that is, the technical term. You have cisgender, which for folks that don't know is...
Because I hate the term bisexual.
Really?
No, I get it.
I get it. I totally understand, but...
But it probably makes it seem like you're going against biology.
So what term do you prefer?
For me?
Yeah.
Daniel.
I prefer
So...
or trans is fine, too, but I'm a man. I have a testosterone level of a man. And that's what I needed to get that level to kind of help push because when you want to change your name legally, you have to have your court documentation, you have to have a letter from your doctor stating that you are physiologically male or female if you're transitioning that way to get it. For me to change my gender marker on my South Carolina birth certificate, I have to have a fucking court order.
Wow.
Thanks, Doctor.
But it's easier for me to change my passport. All I need is like the name change documentation and a letter from my doctor.
Well, I think that's a very good point. It's different from state to state, right?
State is different.
Because
Is it still state to state?
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
Really?
Because my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's some states where to fully transition, you have to have both top and bottom surgeries, versus some states, top surgery is
It's just
accessible.
it's because they want you to have sex change, but for me, I mean, this is non-reversible, you can't put it back on. I mean, well, you could, I don't know. No, thank you. But something,
Fair enough.
you
You
know,
just
you
don't
can't
want back
reverse.
problems.
Irreversible surgery is pretty much the term for it. But yeah, I had to have a fucking court order to change my birth certificate in South Carolina, so getting a passport changed, that's a lot easier.
That's ironic to me. That
So was your passport changed before your driver's license was?
No, I still gotta do it. It's a matter of me taking my ass down there. I'm not traveling out of the country anytime soon. I mean, but if I go to Canada, they don't care. I mean, I've had no problems. The same way passport, data clerks across the female had no problems getting in and out of Canada. Even Costa Rica of all places, but even I had no problem traveling. I would go to like Turkey or something. Not Turkey, but Middle East or something like that. But Serbia.
So, what other things have kind of come up for you? You kind of mentioned terminology and mentioned terms that are used in a negative light. So
I hate the word training.
okay.
And I know a lot of people, and it's again, people embrace words to kind of like, take away, like we use fag, we use queer, we use dyke. Some people use training, they love it. I'm not a fan of it because usually it's always, for me, is in a negative light. But I know a lot of trans folk embrace it. And again, it's each to each his own, but I hate the word training. It feels like somebody else would do anything else down a chocolate word. For me, it's the equivalent to the N-word.
Okay, that explains that a lot. Now, you mentioned people using the term cisgender or cis kind of as a slam.
Some people do, yeah. I mean,
Because I've kind of seen that
on social media.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the Book of Faces, yeah. Where folks kind of get in a keyboard warrior mode, and you can't possibly understand this because you're just cis. And I think that's probably where some of those balls go, right? Because people kind of see it in that route, and they're like, oh, okay, well, once I hear that, that's where it takes me. So, and it's kind of like, mom raised you. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
It's how you say it. It's definitely how you
gotta
say
put
it.
thought into that.
Yeah.
So, what else has kind of come up along your journey? So, you're in a new city now.
Mhm.
So you're no longer in the city where people knew you before and after. Which, ironically, I still hang out with a lot of the same people that knew you before and after. But what was that kind of like for you starting over in a new city?
It's a little different because my owner is a woman and we're both queer, and people see us as a straight couple. And I tell people I have to get up when I'm in front of people. I'm like, I am not straight. I am not straight. And so I have to do like 2 snaps in a circle, to kind of prove that I'm not straight. No. So that's a little different, but
Men on Baltimore? Around the world, back.
I know. But
Yeah, we just had a little flashback. I know there's probably some people in here that were not even around in the early 90s, but yeah.
But it's a little different, but Baltimore has a huge trans community, and right now there's a great clinic called Chase Brexton, which was originally created for gay men during the height of the AIDS crisis, but now they've widened to LGBT and lower income patients. But again, for me to find healthcare access quickly in Baltimore was great. because I don't have to educate my doctor on how to serve me and my body and my needs. I'm a 40+ person who's taking testosterone. How will that impact me in 10 years? How will that impact my liver? You know, and other things. You know, I have high blood pressure, so I want somebody who can help me, you know, through that journey and not have to educate. Because a lot of doctors don't know a lot about trans patients and how to help us. So.
Well, let's be clear, you have high blood pressure because you work in IT. That's how that works.
Genetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, IT,
No,
just
yeah.
IT.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's something that kind of all of us have to evaluate is finding medical professionals that work for us. And you know, I kind of tell people all the time, my primary care physician went out of network for me about 3 years ago, and I still go and pay the highest premiums because A, you've known me for almost a decade. B, you know, you not only are my general practitioner, but also my infectious disease consultant. I can go to one place versus having to farm it out.
Exactly.
So that's a very good point. You have to find people that work for your needs specifically.
And also the new primary care physician, she was like, oh, so you sleep with men, so let's talk about PrEP. Which is great.
Good for her.
Can you say that one more time?
My primary care physician talk about PrEP.
That's exciting.
So your primary care provider actually talked to you about PrEP.
Which we had a discussion about last year.
We actually did have that conversation last year, and it's actually kind of, you know, this was in the South or this was in Baltimore, which is still kind of the South.
Which my interest is in.
Right, but I mean, even here in Wisconsin, I'm from Illinois, it's difficult to find doctors that will actually talk to you about PrEP.
You usually have to bring it up yourself.
You have to bring it up, you have to educate your own doctor
you have to ask them.
about the fact that, you know, PrEP will actually be a positive factor in your sexual life.
Yeah, and it really is hard to imagine that in late 2016, we're still having to be the advocate for that, right? But, you know, we are, and I mean, I've seen the same thing. I'm very lucky that where I go for my medical needs, they bring it up on their own, but I hear folks all the time where they go in and their doctors have never even heard of it. I'm like, what rock have you been under in Midtown Atlanta?
I mean, seriously, like, even my doctor, like, is like one of the foremost doctors in Chicago for treating patients that are HIV positive. I had educated on what, like, the benefits of Truvada were for those that were not positive. And so it was kind of a struggle for me to A, get him to cooperate, and then B, for the insurance company that deals with my prescriptions to also cooperate, because they see my diagnosis as well. And they're like, well, this is contraindicated, but not so much.
So, what about you guys? Do you have any questions for Dana? Gail's going to come up with a microphone.
All right, we've got our first question over here.
Yep. I can't see shit, so
It's okay. Just
there we
speak really
go.
hard.
Oh, there's people.
You understand.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So, my dad is trans, or was, I should say. And one of his struggles was, he went to church one Sunday. Afterwards, when he was leaving, the priest said, "Could you just hang around for a moment?" And said, "Are you male?" And he said, "No, yes." And so he asked him not to come back or dress as a male. And so I'm curious as to how the transition has affected your faith tradition. Yeah.
It affected my
Faith tradition.
I stopped going to my traditional church because they didn't like me because I was gay. And so I stopped going there. So I still believe in a higher power, but I don't go to a traditional church anymore. It's just, I especially like a Southern black church. And I grew up very religious. I mean, we were in church. My dad was deacon. I mean, we were there all the time. And once
I mean, if you grew up in Columbia, it's required.
and having to wear a dress, Lord, and having those fights with my mom, I used to wear a dress under my, dress, and I had like a pocketbook full of candy. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to church, I'm gonna be sugar rush and stuff like that. But as an adult, I kind of just went away from it. The last time I stepped into church was my grandmother's funeral, and that was like 1995 was the last time I stepped foot in a church statue going. But yeah, I don't have any other experience of being a trans person with religion.
Anyone else? Here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I guess I'm just going to save this for the people who are going to watch this recording. And I have no problem being identified as cis. It's the least we owe the trans people to know that being cis is not necessarily normal male. But my question pertains less to the trans aspect and more about race, actually. You mentioned you just moved to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I've just moved to Madison. And from my understanding of Atlanta, it's much more racially diverse than probably any place that has a leather community in the United States. Well, I'm in Madison, and that's a little bit of a thing for me. I haven't really seen an Onyx community, so how have you managed to navigate that? I know Baltimore's pretty fine because I live around that area. But.
Baltimore is pretty much with a high population of African Americans. And that was an experience too when you are now seen as a black man. We're used to being as a black woman all the time, invisible. But now you're like, oh, I'm gonna put my purse on this side of my body when you walk into an elevator, or you walk down the street and you hear people's doors locked because you walk down the street, and stuff like that. Or having the fear, especially in Baltimore, we've got cops who've gotten off now for killing a black man. It's really scary, and so that's why I keep looking in my rearview mirror to make sure I'm not getting followed by a cop. So I have more of a heightened awareness with what I now look like to the outside. But I still know what it feels like to be a woman. So if I'm in a woman's space, I make sure I give her plenty of space. She doesn't feel like I'm in her personal space. Especially when I'm walking down the street, I make sure to give her plenty of room, or I may even cross the street. Because I don't want to make her feel uncomfortable, which I know may suck, but that's just how it is. I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. So I find myself making these, choices to kind of make other people at ease, and in turn make it easier on myself. But it was different navigating the world now as a black man. It's totally different, especially in the South. And I grew up with parents who were very active in the civil rights movement. So, I grew up, listening to Martin Luther King speeches and things like that, and knowing what it was. Some places we've changed, but not a lot of places in the South. You just know not to go there. At night, but that's the world we live in, especially in the Trump world.
Oh no, we're not picking the period.
The great pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Who's next?
So, I am curious, when you realized you were a gay man and you started to navigate the dating scene or the hookup scene, how did that all go? And was it different in the kink community versus, for lack of a better word, the muggle community?
Nice.
Great question. That was a great question. In the kink community, I think a lot of our play sometimes revolve around stuff. You can beat the crap out of somebody and not have to fuck. So I don't have any problems there.
That show is all about that.
and that makes you be more, go outside of your limits maybe and discover new things around play. And then when you go to the muggle world, we're talking about the muggle world. One of the main questions I would get on these dating sites was like, if I get fucked by a man, why did you just stay a woman? I'm like, there's a difference between sex and gender.
Mm-hmm.
Huge difference between sex and gender. And that's usually what my reply is, the difference between, sex and gender, two different things.
All about a block button.
Delete block. Kind of a thing.
Y'all know that button on Scruff, don't even play it.
So you don't have any idea how much I love the fact that we distinguish between the kink world and the muggle world, because I love me some Harry Potter. All right, we got our next question. You have to stand up.
Yes,
you
you
do.
We want to see all of you.
Even without the beard, stand.
We want to see baby face. Come on.
That was tough.
I got it. So I just want to know how can those of us who are gay Leathermen be a better ally to the trans community?
I would say just remember when you were discovering yourself and your sexuality, your kinks, and how difficult that was for you and how difficult the outside world may see you, is that we're going through those same struggles. We just want to be accepted for who we are now. I now see myself as a man. I want to be accepted as a man. And for, we had in Atlanta, we had a contest where they actually changed their rules to not allow trans contestants and stuff like that. So we're, we still fit the category, we're still a gay man, but it's really hard, sometimes. But I think to be a better ally is just listen, just open your ears and just kind of relate, like, hey, remember the struggles we went through. And we're just trying to be accepted for who we are, because it was very fucking hard. And for a lot of people, it's hard to, to come out and see yourself as trans and to come out and to be open. A lot of people still don't want to disclose because they're afraid of being killed. Right. And you'll probably, in the slide deck I have, the list of trans people who have been murdered this year so far. And so
it's actually up there right now.
Yeah, and there are 2 guys on there. And so I think we have a lot of struggles every day of being who we are. So just listen to us and just try to empathize and sympathize with what we're feeling. But yeah, I think just listen to us.
And I think that goes a long way. I mean, you can't always put yourself truly in somebody else's shoes, but you can at least have a level of empathy and understanding. And to your point, that goes a long way.
Yeah, because you just remember your struggles as coming out as queer, and how to find a leather community and how your place in that leather community. Even again, I've been in it 20 years. We've seen an explosion of different expressions. 20 years ago, you didn't see any pups. Now there are a lot of y'all, because that's what you felt. That's your now expression. You identify as a slave. You identify as a boy. Like, hey, I want to be a pup. I want to be a kitten. I want to be a squirrel.
Just remember, we come from a generation where Bob Barker raised us right. You spay and neuter your pets. I'm going to puppy events with an elastrator and extra bands. Try me.
I can't take the headset away from him.
It's glued on.
Great feedback.
Who else has a question?
And if you don't want to speak out now, I'm around all weekend, so you want to grab a drink and ask me some questions, that'd be great.
So yeah, will you be joining us tonight, actually, at what?
Change.
Ooh.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Oh, really? And Greg. All right.
There's a lead there. That's exciting.
I know, right? I'm excited.
432.
432.
Bourbon.
Got it. Bingo.
All right, anybody else have a question? Yes, here we go.
I really appreciate the comment about the fear of law enforcement. Being part of that community as well as being part of the leather community, I almost feel obligated to apologize. Chicago is a long way from Baltimore, but only in distance. And sometimes what my brothers do to my brothers isn't always what needs to be done in this world. So not as an apology, just so you understand that there is that element in both worlds. And I would hope that you could learn not to be afraid to be stopped someday for something, because not everybody's cut out of the same role.
Yeah, that's what I say. It could be like if one person's having a bad day. I was criminal justice minor, so I was a police officer myself. So I'm not gonna, bad talk all law enforcement. It's like one person who's been having a bad fucking day.
We have allies everywhere. Absolutely.
Well, totally. I mean, and I will say something. I'm guessing you're a Chicago police officer or work.
It was. Yes.
Your work. I mean, I live in Chicago, and in my neighborhood, in my neighborhood, we actually have something called positive loitering, which, like, my neighborhood has a lot of gangs. I mean, hands down, just there's gang warfare going on, and I will say that regardless of anything else that's going on in Chicago, we've had the police at the corner where we decided we're going to positively loiter to help, move the gangs out of our area, and they don't care if I'm gay. They don't care if anyone that's around us is gay or trans or anything like that. They accept us for who we are, and they're happy that we're there to promote positive things in our community. And so, on behalf of a resident of Chicago, I do appreciate that too, because there's definitely a lot of things in the news that have been said about police officers and negative things, but there are positive things that police officers do as well. And I wanted to highlight that. Thank you very much for bringing that up.
Riker, just to be clear, your neighborhood is really more like the Sharks than the Jets, and a lot of pirouettes and spins. I know who you live with.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even that. I will tell you, like, in the last week, I've heard 14 gunshots happen in my 2-block radius.
Right.
I mean, my neighborhood is not, by any means, the best in the world. So to have folks that come out and support us as the community, not just, white, white folk that are just coming here to be here, like everybody that's coming to this corner to stand there and be like, hey, we are the people of this community. We are standing against the fact that there's violence in our community. That's what I really appreciate about our police officers.
What else? Anybody else?
I want to say thank you for here listening to me, and you all are great allies, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cordina and Nitro. I want to remind you guys all that we have sweat, exclamation point, at Woof's tonight after this chat here. So it's right here on the square somewhere. Just follow the crowd, you guys will make it there. And also,
I'm being signaled from Banner
at 10 o'clock. So you guys have a costume change time. Or you can just go there and get a head start, whatever you want to do. But we'd like to thank you guys all for coming out tonight. Please feel free to come on up for photos with us or with Dana alone. And please make sure you guys buy your tickets for tomorrow night, because we've got 4 amazing contestants that are going to be vying for the title of Mr. Wisconsin Leather 2017. So please.
And tomorrow night, the contest starts at 7:30.
Oh wait, what time does it start?
At 7:30 real people time, not police time.
So 6:30
Okay,
Queen
so
time.
tomorrow night's at 7.
So the show will start at 7:30. So if you guys want to be here beforehand to get your seats, because these seats are fucking premium.
And let's be clear, if Riker and I are not here at 7:30, that means that Jeff is going to host it. So y'all make sure we're here. Jeff, I just saw someone cross themselves in the audience.
Seriously.
Like that happened, that was a thing.
So tonight at 10 o'clock over at Woof's, we're going to have our opening party as well as the meet and greet. We're going to be introducing the judges as well as our contestants. Tomorrow at 7:30 is when the contest starts. And we will actually have that right here at the Bartell Theater. Please be in your seats at 7:30.
And we've got a vendor all weekend. Yeah.
We do have a vendor. Who's the vendor?
It's on paper in your hand.
Marco's Essentials.
It's not-
Y'all like how I
it's
did
not
that?
there. Marco's Men's Essentials is actually going to be out in the lobby in the mezzanine here. The mezzanine by the men's bathroom.
Y'all know where the men's room is.
Thank you, Olaf.
I know you do.
It's not in the script here. So in the mezzanine by the men's bathroom, if you guys want to grab anything from them, they're open tonight. They'll also be open again tomorrow during the show, so you guys can get your stuff so you are prepared. Wing.
And they'll be open tomorrow night at 6:30, so definitely take a look. We're glad that they're here. Thank you guys for being here.
also, if you are a judge for the contest tomorrow, we actually have your binders. So if you want to learn a little bit about the contestants, you guys want to come up on stage. Judges only, obviously. But come up on stage, we'll go ahead and get your binders to you, courtesy of Ola. But do you guys have anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you guys so much for being here.
This has been fun.
And thank you for having Riker and I back. We had so much fun.
Hey! Watching the puppies!
Thank you so much. It's so good having you here. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll see you guys again tonight over at Woofs at 10 o'clock. We'll be introducing our judges as well as our contestants. And again, here tomorrow night at 7:30.
All right, thank you guys. Have fun.
Everybody can do this. I mean, it just means that the same gender that we're gonna go with. The reason I consider myself cis is because being cisgender should not be construed as more.